say it, but your sister was right. Don't trust English boys with far too much free time. I hate to say it, but your sister was right. I'm nothing but a problem, leave you crying overnight. And I hate to say it, but your sister was right. I can't focus on the future, only my short sight. I hate to say it, but your sister was right. I'm a wanker, complete wanker, a fucking waste of time.
Bomber jacket you've had since sixth form, adorned with patches of places you've been, is nothing on my khaki coat I got from a roadside when I was 16. My boots are from airports, my backpack's from friends. I'm not a man of substance, and so I'll pretend to be a wanderer, wandering, leaving ascetic belongings in hostels and restaurant bins. Cut that bit out. The road to my home is horizons, my target. If I keep on moving, never lose sight of it, treating my memory of you like a fire, let it burn out, don't fight it, try to move on. It's been 60 weeks since I saw Vienna. A bandage and a white smile slept across my face. I'll pick up my hiking boots when I am ready, and I'll put down my roots when I'm dead. The distance is futile. Come on, don't be hasty, you'll get that feeling deep inside your bones. I'll be gone then, when you must be alone.
First and foremost, don't let it be said, my dear, I was gonna wait for you. So this is not an act of spite, it's a visceral coming to. She wrote an album, and that's something that I can't do. But what I can do is spit the truth, and it all leads back to you. Secondly, I know I haven't written much. You know the way I can be. Tonight I'm fucking drunk, so it's all gonna be about me. Take a seat, pull up a chair, give me one beat to fill my glass. Lost a piece of me in you, but you've lost all your past. Is he better than me? Has he seen more to this life? Can he smoke more? Can he fuck more? Are you good enough to be his wife? Can he break me? Can he break you? Oh, I don't know what I'm to do. Yes, I don't know what I'll fucking do. I've seen our cafe, I've clocked our plans. Oh, what could have been? You didn't go and fall in love and ruin everything. I've seen him, I've been him, I felt the same way. But now I break against the dirt, along with our cafes. Is he better than me? Has he seen more to this life? Can he smoke more? Or can he fuck more? Are you good enough to be his wife? Can he break me? Can he break you? Well, I don't know what I'm to do. Yes, I don't know what I'll fucking do. I've lost all meaning. I've lost my sense of hope. I've seen him going out with you. I've seen what he can do. So touch him and break me, strip naked, embrace him, lose faith in his paces, stamina and grace. I'm losing faith. I'm losing faith. I'm losing. I don't care. I want you here. As long as you're happy, I don't care.
Hey everybody, happy Saturday evening tutorial stream. How's everyone doing wherever you are out there on the internet today? I hope everyone is doing well. I hope I also remember to turn on all of my lights before I start my stream. So I hope everyone is doing well. I had a great time with the live stream last night for our Freeform Friday. I did, by the way, I did post in Discord, but I finished my project and I baked it and I did not burn down the house. So I managed to finish the entire floorification of my A, and again, baked it and did not set my house on fire, so I am calling that a win. Not calling my phone charging a win. Take the electricities. Goodness gracious. So today's project is going to be this. This is what because I had absolutely no creative energy at all when I was naming this class. So chain drop earrings is what this one is called. It's a really fun one if you want just a kind of over the top sort of earring, and this is obviously my sample earring. I will say, one thing about this is it does tend to get, tangled up in itself. So this is definitely an earring for people who just want something that's kind of over the top and organic. If you're wanting it to stay really crisp and defined, this may not be the style for you. But let's talk about tools and supplies for this evening's tutorial. So wire, I'm going to need some 16 gauge wire. I'm using bronze for that. I need enough to make my 2 components, these 2 teardroppy things. So you're going to need anywhere from 8 to 12 inches depending on how large you want to make those. 26 gauge wire, I'm also using bronze for that. You're going to need enough to wire wrap your teardrops and also do the wire wrapping that holds everything together on here. So about 3 feet of your 26 gauge wire should do just fine for you. You're going to need 6 top drilled teardrop beads, and I have gone ahead and pre-wire wrapped 3 of those because otherwise this tutorial is going to take all night. You're going to need some chain. How much, and you want kind of a fine link chain. Now how much chain you use really depends on a couple of things, basically how full and how long you want each of these little sections of chain. So, well, hi Molly, welcome to the stream. So each earring has 4 sections of chain, right? Yes. So it's got one on the, sorry, let me go ahead and turn the exposure up on that because I feel like it's just a little too dark. Let me find the right camera to turn the exposure up on. Yes, we have live producing going on the Beading Dream stream, but there we go. It's a little bit more light. Okay, so there are really, what are you? I swear, optical mouses are so funny. Sometimes the cursor's just like doing a little jig up there in the corner because there's something on my work surface. So anyway, so there's a section of chain outside of the teardrop, and then in between each teardrop, and then again on the outside. So basically each earring has 4 sections of chain, and for this particular kind of length and density of chain, I made my sections about 5 inches long. So that's what I'm going to start with. So 4 sections times 5 inches long is 20 inches of chain per earring. That's 40 inches of chain total. So if you start yourself out with like 4 feet of chain, that gives you plenty of extra for cutting and ears and whatnot. And of course you do need a pair of ear wires because we are making a pair of earrings. As far as tools go, well, apparently I'm going to throw an ear wire on the floor, but as far as tools go, you need your basic wire working tools. That's going to be your wire cutters, your round nose pliers, and your chain nose pliers. And then it is going to be helpful if you have some kind of a dowel or a mandrel of some sort. So I'm going to use my trusty ring stick. Also, I do need to say right now at the start of the stream that I think we have our technical difficulties sussed out. Anybody who was with us on Thursday knows that both of my streams on Thursday crashed before the end. I think I figured that out. Basically, I uninstalled XSplit and I installed it again, and it seems to be working fine. But if I just abruptly go poof, it's probably because XSplit crashed my entire computer, and I have to wait for everything to boot back up before I can go back online. So again, I'm hopeful, fingers crossed, that that's not going to happen during either of this evening's streams, but if it does, if I just abruptly go away, that's what happens. See, what happened was I'm having software issues, and so like I said, I think I've got that sussed out, but if I just go away, I promise I will be back. So let's start out by cutting our 16 gauge wire to make our little drop components. And this one's fun because what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to wrap all of the little dangly bits onto my wire when it's straight, and then I'm going to bend it around my mandrel to make my teardrop. And at some point I am going to need to figure out where the heck that ear wire that I dropped went to, but I might just go get another one, because Ace has seen the floor of my streaming area and can attest to the fact that Jimmy Hoffa is probably down there somewhere on the floor of my streaming area, along with the Ark of the Covenant and possibly the Holy Grail. So yeah, it's a little scary down there. So I'm going to start by cutting my wire that I'm going to use for my teardrop pieces. And so to make drop pieces that are about this size, which, you know, head for scale, so these are not small earrings, these are definitely sizable earrings. I'm going to cut 2 5-inch pieces of my 16 gauge bronze wire. All right, if the Holy Grail is actually somewhere on the floor of my streaming area, Corvus calls dibs. If I find the Holy Grail, Corvus, you'll be the first one I contact. Okay, well maybe Indiana Jones might be the first one I contact, but I promise you'll be right after that. Okay, so 2 5-inch pieces. I'm not gonna form these yet because once again I'm gonna wrap everything on while they are straight. So I'm gonna be doing a bit of pre-cutting. I'm gonna be doing a bit of pre-cutting for a minute before I actually like start making this project. So now I used about 5-inch sections of wire, 4 per earring, so it means I need 8, not wire, chain. I need 8 pieces of chain, each of which is 5 inches long. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those now. 1, 2, no offense Corvus, but Harrison Ford, vintage Harrison Ford, is a little bit more my type. Just saying. He has qualities. So 8 pieces total. 5, 6, 7, and why don't you match? Rude. I have this piece of chain that's sitting around my work area that I was like, oh, if I don't cut enough chain, I'll just use that. It doesn't freaking match. The color is wrong. So, excuse me for just a moment. Oh, I might as well get in here. Okay, so now I've got all my bronze chain cut. Got myself a nice new piece there since that stupid piece of chain does not match the color of the bronze. And then the last thing I'm going to do is going to cut some of my 26 gauge wire, and I'm going to wire wrap my teardrops. So this is your basic top drilled wire wrapping, and the cool thing about this is we don't actually have to attach these to anything, so we can go ahead and wire wrap them and just finish them off without having to worry about attaching them to anything, and that's really helpful because of course it's always easiest to do a wire wrap when you don't have to worry about attaching it to anything. So how does one wrap a top drill bead? Internet, I can hear you asking me this question through the monitor. Never fear, I am going to show you how to wire wrap a top drill bead. So when I say top drilled, and this is just kind of a difference in syntax between how people refer to these beads. So I say top drilled teardrops because they are drilled through the point, which is typically the top of the teardrop. Sometimes people call these side drilled bead because the hole goes from side to side. There's really not any actual, as far as I know, correct vernacular for this, so it's, you know, whatever gets your point across is the fine words to use. But for me, these are top drilled teardrops, and you have to wire wrap them a little differently than you would wire wrap a bead where the hole does go, say, straight through the central axis of the bead. If the hole goes straight through the central axis of the bead, you can use a head pin, do a basic wire wrapped loop on top, and you're good. But unfortunately, with a top drilled teardrop, if you put it on a head pin, if we were to just imagine this wire were a head pin and make a loop right at the top, your teardrop unfortunately would be sideways instead of hanging down, which is typically the way that you want to see these guys hang. So it's a 2-step process, and by 2 steps I mean 2 major steps subdivided into lots of little tiny steps, starting with this. So you're usually going to use a 26 or a 28 gauge wire when you're wrapping your top drilled teardrops. I've got a 26 gauge that I'm using this evening. You're going to thread that wire through your bead, so you have a short side and a long side. So I've got one side of my wire that's just a couple inches long, and then I've got the entire rest of my wire on the other side of my bead. And I cut myself about a 12-inch piece of wire, excuse me, to work with to start. So now I'm going to take my wires and I'm going to bend them up against the holes of my bead so that they cross. Alright, I want them to completely cross and make a triangle that is directly above the point of the bead. Now I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers. Those are the flat ones. Those are for grabbing, holding, and squashing things. I'm going to grab the long wire with my chain nose and I'm going to bend it up like so. So what I've done is I have just bent the long wire so that it is now, so there's a little, you know, kink in it, and what's happened is now the majority of my long wire is aligned more or less with the central axis of my bead. Now I'm going to wrap the short wire around the long wire, and I'm just going to do that 1.5 to 2 times. So you don't need to wrap it a lot of times because we're going to do some more wrapping in a minute, so you don't want the wrap on this to get too big. So I'm just holding the bead with my fingers, pulling the wire around nice and tight, okay? You want nice tight wraps, and 1.5 to 2 times, and then you can trim off your long wire like so. And then if you've got a pokey stabby bit there, you can just take your chain nose, press that down. Okay, so that is all of the bitty baby steps that are in the first part of wire wrapping a top drilled teardrop. So what I've created now is a bead on a stick. What I've really created, excuse me, is a beaded head pin. So I've created a head pin with a top drill bead at the bottom. Now I'm going to take my round nose pliers, I'm going to make a basic wire wrapped loop to turn this into something that I can hang off of my earring. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers, those are the ones with the barrels that look like stabby ice cream cones, and I'm going to place my round nose pliers so that they're touching the top of my wire wrap. Now I'm going to push my wire away from me over my pliers to make a 90-degree angle, so see that nice corner that I just made there. I'm going to loosen my pliers, rotate them independently of the wire, and grab right on that corner. I'm going to pull that wire back over the top of my pliers, up and over the top of my pliers, back towards me. Okay, so the instinctual move for everyone, and this has been as long as I've been teaching this, is to continue pushing it away from you and push it under your pliers, but no, don't do that. Reverse direction, bring it back up over the top, and what that does, you can see, is it's starting to form a loop around my pliers. Now I need to finish that loop, but I can't because this jaw of my pliers right here is in the way, so I'm just going to loosen my pliers, rotate them out of the way, grab again, and push my wire underneath my pliers to make this. This is what we call our lady with a scarf, as it looks like a lady if she were in a convertible motoring along on a fine summer's day with a long scarf dramatically trailing out behind her. More so, we give this step in the process a name because it's just easier, because this is a step in the process where if you are linking this onto something, this is the point at which you would do that. Since I'm not linking it on anything, we're going to continue on by holding across our loop with our chain nose, and then I'm going to wrap. I'm going to start at the base of my loop, and I'm just going to wrap down, going towards my stone until I meet the end of my wire that's already there, and then I'm going to trim that off. I know, right, Talifet? It's definitely caffeine o'clock. I've been slacking off on my caffeine consumption today for sure. And then we want to press those ends down. And there we go. That's one loop. So I'm going to add that to my little pile of things that I've already wire wrapped. Now we're going to repeat. So I've got another teardrop, and I've got my wire through my teardrop. Like so. So first step, again, is we're going to cross them. So I want to bend them up nice and tight against the hole of my bead. Alright, you can use your pliers if your fingers aren't giving you enough leverage. So I want a nice triangle that's directly above the point of the bead. Grab the long wire directly above the point where those two wires cross. Bend it up. so that now that long wire is centered over the central axis of the bead. And then, that's a good question, Lori, and I will answer that in a moment. And then I'm going to wrap the short one around the long one 1.5 times. So Lori asked if the top loop is going to be in the same plane as the bead or if it's going to be 90 degrees turned. For this particular project, because of the way that these wires, the wire's going to go in the earring, we want that loop to be perpendicular to the bead. So when I'm looking at the front of the bead for this particular project, I should not see the donut hole of the center of my loop. This is also true if you're going to make a pendant out of something that's top drilled. However, if you're doing an earring, then you would want it rotated the other way so that it's in the same plane as your bead. Once I've done my 1.5 wraps around, I'm going to trim and tuck in my pokey stabby end, which I left very long, so we'll see if I actually can tuck this in. I don't need to tuck all that in. I can trim some of that off. Okay, so now I'm going to make my basic wire wrap loop, and I'm going to make that perpendicular to my bead, which means that I'm going to start looking at the front of my bead like so. Round nose pliers touching the top wrap, and we're going to go away, rotate, back up over the top, rotate underneath. That gives me my lady with the scarf. Pull across your loop and wrap down till you meet the end of wire that's already there, and then trim and press down. Alright, so since I've already pre-wrapped 3 of my teardrops, that means I only have 1 more teardrop left to go. So let's go ahead and knock that out. So again, wire through the bead, make your triangle, bend your long wire up, wrap the short one around the long one, one and a half to 2 times is all you need. Then go ahead and trim. And press down. And now a basic wire wrap loop. Round nose pliers. We go away, rotate, back up over the top, rotate underneath. That gives us again our lady with the scarf. Hold across your lady and wrap. Like so. Hey Smee, how are you? How's everything in San Antonio? Okay, so now what I have is I have 6 wire wrapped teardrops. Sorry, you couldn't see anything except for my fingers. 6 wire wrapped teardrops. I've got 8 pieces of chain. I've got my ear wires, and I've got my 2 pieces of 16 gauge wire. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut myself off another piece of 26 gauge wire. It's about 1 foot long. And this is what I'm going to use to start attaching all of my bits and pieces to my 16 gauge wire. So I'm going to take my 16 gauge wire, and I'm going to eyeball this, okay? Yes, you could measure. We all know that I'm not the most precise person when it comes to measuring, so. Well, boo on your kids, Amy. So I'm just going to eyeball where about I think this should start. Now, the good thing about this is that this will slide on the wire, so if I get my eyeballing a little bit wrong, I can gently kind of nudge it one way or the other. So this is about the center of my wire, so I'm going to say that about right here is where I need to start. Now I could always start from the center if I wanted to, but I'm not that invested this evening in being precise. So I'm going to take my 26 gauge wire, place it crossways to my 16 gauge wire, and I'm going to wrap it on, anchoring on about 4 times. Hi, there's an ace on the light side. What's up with that? That's not the natural habitat of the ace. Okay, so now I'm ready for my first chain bit. So I've got this wire anchored onto my 16 gauge. I've got about 5 wraps going there. Now I'm gonna, hey, I oftentimes, okay, Corvus, did you watch my stream last night where there was no precision of any kind in any way? Like, I'm really precise when I really have to be, and this is not one of those projects. What?
Soldering.
With soldering, yes. But
Soldering is the baking of beading.
this is not one of those projects where I need to be precise. So no, there shall be no precision on this evening's stream. So now I'm gonna take my wire. Okay, so I've anchored my 26 gauge wire onto my 16 gauge wire by wrapping it around about 5 times. And I'm gonna go to the end of the wire and I'm going to go ahead and add my chain onto there. So what we're gonna do, okay, that's fair. All right, I'm gonna add my chain onto my wire, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put 1 link of my chain on there, and then I'm going to just loop this up and put another link of my chain on there so that I have a little kind of swag of chain hanging down. And I'm going to do that again. And ideally, I should wind up with pretty much 2 swags and an end hanging down. And all of these should be about 1 inch or so in length. Again, no precision on tonight's Beading Dreams stream for sure. Okay, then I'm just going to take this. I'm going to hold it a little bit away from my 16 gauge. And then I'm going to wrap, and I'm going to wrap 4 in between. And so what that holding it away did is it just gives me a little kind of loop that my chains are hanging from. Now I'm going to grab one of my wire wrapped teardrops. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to thread that on to my wire. This is something that you need to be careful of because this project does like to tangle up a lot. So you need to make sure that you know where all of your pieces are and which way you're supposed to be going. I realize this could be said about life as well. And by the way, super excited that I managed to finish and bake my project last night without burning down the house. Super, super, super happy with that non-house burning result. Okay, so now I've got one of my beads on, and again, I'm just going to hold it, and I'm putting a little bit of pressure on it in this direction to just sort of pull my wire down, so that again, when I wrap it around my 16 gauge, I've got a little kind of a loop that's hanging off of. So again, 4 times, so that was 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to grab another piece of chain. Again, go to the end of my wire and grab the end of my chain, like so, and then grab a couple inches down my chain and a couple more inches down my chain. And do I measure? Of course I don't measure. You know, I just want them to be sort of in the same ballpark as far as length goes. So then again, we're going to thread that and we're going to string it all the way down. And once again, I'm going to grab it and I'm going to hold it a little bit away from my 16 gauge wire so I get a little loop of my 26 gauge, and then I'm going to wrap my 26 gauge 5 times. So 2, 3, 4, 5. And if your wraps are a little far apart like mine are, you can see right there, you can just sort of push them together with your thumbnail. Now it's time for another bead. And once again, hold that bead away from your 16 gauge and then wrap on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Time for another piece of chain. So I think we've, you know, kind of gotten the gist of it now. So it's chain and then a bead and then chain and then a bead, and then chain and then a bead and then chain. Okay, so there is my little chain bit. And then we're going to wrap that on. Hey, peoples! There's more peoples on the stream than I typically have on a Saturday night. So thanks, everybody. It's nice to see you all. Hope everyone is having a good day. Hope y'all had a good Saturday. Because, yes, it was a beautiful day here in Dallas. So I'm going to go ahead and hold that. Once again, hold that away from my 16 gauge and then wrap this around. Hi, Jen! It was a beautiful day in Dallas, which unfortunately means that we were slow here at the Beading Dreams. Of course, we did get to see some of our favorite people, which was amazing, including Jenny J and Diane. But yeah, honestly, if I hadn't had to come to work today, I would have probably kicked my feet up in my backyard and hung out and read a book or something like that. It was just such a lovely day. Okay, this is my last bead. So again, I've strung that on my 26 gauge wire. I'm just going to pull it a little bit away from my 16 gauge and then wrap on 5 times. And then I've got one more set of chain to go on there. And again, when I'm doing my chain, I'm really just eyeballing it. So that's not right. If I'm eyeballing, I know that's not right. So I'm going to start with the end link. I'm going to go about 2 inches down, and I'm just going to thread another link onto my wire, and I'm going to go about 2 inches down and thread another link onto my wire like so. And then this is my last bit to wrap onto my wire, so I'm just going to once again hold that a little bit away from my 16 gauge wire, and I'm just going to wrap on, and this time I'm actually anchoring off. So I really want to make sure I do 5 or even 6 wraps, because this is going to be the end of that. And then I'm going to trim off the rest of my wire. So I'm going to trim off what's left at my end, and I'm going to go back to my beginning as well, and I'm going to trim off this beginning tail. And then if you have pokey stabby bits, which you can see when I cut, hopefully you can see, there's a little pokey stabby bit that always happens when you cut. So I'm going to take a chain nose pliers and I'm just going to press that down so that it kind of sits down with the rest of my coils and doesn't stick out and want to stab me or anyone else. Okay, so now I have, actually everything is where it's supposed to be. Okay, so now I have created, this is essentially my earring. I just need to form this into a teardrop, but first I'm going to repeat the same thing. All of those steps of coiling and chain adding on my other earring. Which means I'm going to need another foot of 26 gauge wire. That's more than a foot. I don't need that much. Okay, second verse, same as the first, except a little bit faster. So I've got my other piece of 16 gauge wire. We're going to start by wrapping my 26 gauge wire on, anchoring it on 5 times. Then we have chain. 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 Pull that down. Hold it a bit far apart and wrap. 1, 2, 3, 5. Now it's time for a bead. And remember, I did wire up 3 of these before stream, so you don't want to wire up all 6 of your beads before you start your project. Just because that's going to make your life so much easier, because you won't be stopping and starting your project to do different steps. If you do everything at once, it's going to just make your project flow a lot better. Okay, time for another piece of chain. So we've got 1 chain and 2 chain, 3 chain. It's all 1 chain, but again, so this is what we're going for. So I've got swag, swag, and then 1 tail end. Take that all the way down. And then hold it a little bit away from your 16 gauge and then wrap. 3. Ooh, don't do that. Okay, so what almost just happened to me was this piece of chain almost got wrapped into my wraps here, and that is not okay. So you want to keep the chain out of your anchoring wraps if at all possible. Okay, time for another bead. Bead, bead, bead. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now it's time for more chain. So let's talk for just a minute while I'm finishing this up about what is upcoming on the Beading Dream stream. It is, of course, Saturday night. That means that it is time for a live merchandise sale. What do we have for you tonight on the live merchandise sale? We are going to be doing some of our dangerous enamel beads from our fabulous Findings Trunk Show. Heather can tell you how dangerous they are. They're very, very dangerous, and she can show you exactly for 5. And we're also going to be doing some 8-inch gemstone strands. I've been so preoccupied with my other new merchandise that I've totally forgotten that we have an 8-inch gemstone strand trunk show that has to go back at the end of the month. And I have been remiss in showing you all the cool things in that trunk show. Like, I did 1 8-inch strand stream and then I forgot about them. So we're going to be doing 8-inch strands and enamel beads this evening. I promise I will chug a Diet Coke before I start the stream, so hopefully I will stay awake. Hopefully there will be a minimum of yawning during the stream. No promises. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so I've got all of my bits wrapped onto my 16 gauge wire. So once again, now I'm going to trim off this beginning tail and I'm going to trim off the end of my wire because I don't need those anymore. And don't forget, you're going to have a pokey stabby bit from where you cut, so make sure you press that down. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and turn these babies into earrings. So this is where your mandrel, marker, ring stick, whatever you're using is going to come in handy, and you're just going to rest that against your wire that has all this stuff hanging from it, and you're going to just bring that up and around your mandrel and cross it like so to make your teardrop shape. I made the sample earrings at my dad's house in Wisconsin with no such tool. I can tell you it is exponentially easier. Okay, bye Smee! To do it with a mandrel than without. So just bring it up and around and cross. And ideally we do want these to be sort of the same size and the same shape. Also, we want all of this stuff to be centered, which, as you can plainly see on this one, it is not. So I can just sort of scooch it, move it over. So ideally you want, you know, your center bead to be at the center bottom of your teardrop. And we do want our teardrops to be similarly sized, since they are going to be a pair of earrings. There we go. All right, and then I need to anchor off my teardrop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these 2 wires, whichever one's in front, and I'm just going to curl it around so it makes a little hook to catch the wire that's behind, like so. Trim it off fairly short. All right, I want to leave, that's about a 1/16 of an inch of wire, and then we're going to go ahead and just squeeze that. And this is actually the tricky part. If you catch that at just the right angle, what you can do is you can just squeeze it down like so. Then we're going to take this wire that remains, cut it if you need to. I don't in this case. You want it to be about a 1/2 inch or a little bit shorter. And you're just going to take your round nose pliers, grab at the end of that wire, and you're just going to roll it down like so to make a loop. And that is your finished earring component. If you wanted to, you could actually hang something from the middle here and hook it around that loop there. I'm not going to do that tonight, but you absolutely could. If you're not a huge fan of the shape, you can always just take that back around your mandrel once you've anchored it off. Kind of do a little bit of, thanks Jen, you can always do a little bit of adjusting if you need to. Alright, so that is earring number 1. Now, once again, we want to make sure, or do our best to make sure that these earrings are the same size, which means that I'm just going to line these 2 up and I'm going to squeeze this one that I haven't finished yet until it's the same size as the one that I have finished. And then, again, whichever wire is in front, that's this one here, I'm going to grab that, and then I can let everything go, because I know that's where I need to make my bend. So I'm just going to bend that around like so, and again, trim it off. And then if you catch it at just the right angle, you can just squeeze that down like so. Now this is a little bit longer than I need, so I'm going to go ahead and trim this off. Obviously I didn't do a good job of getting my wires the same length. And grab your round nose, and here's a little trick, is when you're doing this you can kind of slide this down, this loop that you just made, to make your loop for your ear wire, and then you can let that pop back up, and so you'll get a nice snug fit of the end of that loop on the end of that component. And then the last thing we need to do to make a functional pair of earrings, of course, is put on our ear wires. So we're just going to take our chain nose pliers and we're going to open up our ear wires. We're just going to grab the loop of the ear wire, twist it open, drop your earring onto there, and I always feel like this is the front of the earring where you don't see that raw end from your wire loop. So you're going to drop that on front first, and then close it up. Make sure when you close it up that you do a better job than me. Okay, there should be no space right there, okay? Otherwise you're going to look at your ear one day and you're going to have an ear wire in it and no earring attached to it. Ask me how I know. Alright, second ear wire, open it up. Again, so this is the front of the ear wire because this is what goes through your ear, so you want to make sure you put that on facing front. Make sure you close it completely tightly, and voila! Chain drop earrings. Incidentally, they kind of go with my outfit. So thank you all so much for hanging out with us on the Saturday live tutorial stream for our chain drop earrings tutorial. This is a fun one, and I also like this one because it's got a little bit of that organic bent to it, so it's not, it's very forgiving if you don't measure completely precisely, or you don't have to, is the point. I'm always a fan of that type of project because, as we all know, precision is not my thing, y'all. So, I'm Allison from Beading Dreams in Dallas, Texas. We are an actual brick and mortar retail bead store. That means in addition to teaching live classes on this channel, twitch.tv/beadingdream, which we do 5 times a week. We stream Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 6 p.m. Central Time because we are in Dallas, Texas, and Thursdays at noon. We also do 2 live merchandise sales every week. That's every Wednesday and every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Guess what, people? It's Saturday here in Dallas. That means it's a live merchandise sale night. So we will be back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream, in half an hour at 7:30 with enamel beads and 8-inch gemstone strands. So hopefully we'll see each and every one of you there. If we don't see you at the live sale, hopefully we'll see you in a tutorial next week or a live sale very soon. Everybody who's out there, thank you so much for hanging out with us on a Saturday night. Again, I really hope to see each and every one of you in 30 minutes on the live merchandise sale. It's Saturday. It's our Sips Shopping and Shenanigans sale. It's guaranteed to be a lot of fun. But if you're not going to be able to join us for that, don't forget you can catch us on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream, next week Wednesday at 6 p.m. with another fun free tutorial. Alright, so time to get ready for the sale. We'll see you soon. Bye!